Hey everybody, welcome back to Cody Tarot. I'm your tarot reader, Cody. So for today's pick a card, we are going to be doing why did they come into your life and what did you learn from them? So we're also going to be doing what they learned from you as well. So I decided to film this reading after going to an event. It was like a spiritual meetup event, and it was really cool. It was a very fun event. And I met a girl there, and she was telling me about how she didn't quite know what she was supposed to learn out of the connection that she had. So this is kind of for any connection. It could be a, romantic, it could be just a friendship, some connection that came into your life and you're trying to learn kind of like the lesson from that experience or trying to process that lesson. Maybe the person came into your life and you still don't quite know what you learned from them, or maybe you learned a lot from them and you don't know quite what they learned from you. So this reading is going to be covering both of those things, and basically just in general why this person came into your life, what was their purpose basically. Just a heads up, when I'm doing the readings, I'm going to be drawing 2 animal oracle cards for each group, and sometimes when I'm reading for one animal oracle card, you'll resonate more with one side over the other. So just keep that in mind. If I lean more towards one, talking to you guys as like being this card, you guys might actually be resonating more with the other. So keep that in mind. I do film a lot of these readings, and there's a lot of people watching. So basically, to get the most readings possible, technically with all 4 piles, there's going to be 8 readings because each person could resonate with either side of each pile, each type of relationship, basically. So keep that in mind. And yeah, I think that's the only thing I really need to talk about before the reading. So let's get into the crystals. So first crystal we have here is Honey Opal. That is your first crystal for group 1. For group 2, we have this Hemimorphite. And for group 3, we have this Pyrite. Not Pyrite, what am I talking about? Prehnite. Yeah, Prehnite cluster. Most of these should look familiar if you've been on my channel or with me for a while. And then we have this blue lace agate for group 4. So with that said, take all the time you need to pick your crystal. You can pause the video here if you need to. Without further ado, I'll give you a moment to pick your crystal. Now, without further ado, we will get into group 1 with the Honey Opal. Thank you, guys. Hello, all my lovely people that chose group 1 with the Honey Opal. So let's get into your reading. So first cards that flipped up or that we're taking are Tarantula and the Mouse Spirit. So these both representing your personalities, right? And then we have your oracle cards. The individuality is kind of what the Tarantula learned, and the communication is what the Mouse Spirit person learned. And then we're going to get into your tarot cards to get a more nuanced picture of what was going on between this connection, what you learned from them. So let's flip over the cards now. For Tarantula, we have 4 of Cups in reverse, 9 of Cups in reverse, and 4 of Swords in reverse. And then Mouse person, we have the Magician in reverse, the 8 of Wands in reverse, and the Emperor in reverse. Wow, a lot of reverse cards. So usually in a reading like this, when I get all reverse cards or majority are reversed, it tends to mean not that the cards are representing their opposite meaning, but that they're representing like a lot of stuff going on in the mind or in the head, or a lot of kind of like heady stuff, like stuff that you're thinking about like a lot of stuff that you're thinking about versus stuff in the outer world that you're experiencing, like through, quote unquote communication, what we have here next to the mouse person. Okay, let's get into the reading. So first of all, I'm going to talk about each one of you over here. So for the Tarantula person, in this connection, this is the type of person that seemed and came off a little scary to the mouse person. So the mouse person is someone who, especially with mice being such small animals, right? And they're almost they can be kind of like nitpicky and focused on home type stuff and just little things, right? You can also think of mice as like slightly sneaky, like a little, like I wouldn't say sneaky, I would just say quick on their feet. Like this person's very like quick on their feet, very nimble, very agile, can easily move around in different places. Mouse people can also have a high degree of anxiety. So if you're resonating with this mouse person, you might have a higher degree of anxiety than most people around you. That might be something you struggle with. Now the tarantula person, on the other hand, I see tarantulas as, yes, they're very jumpy, but at the same time, I see this tarantula person as way more calm than the mouse person, which is interesting because the mouse is like an earth sign and the tarantula is a fire sign. So on the surface, I guess I would say that the mouse person seems more calm than the tarantula person, but has like an inner anxiety. And the tarantula person on the other side seems more outwardly passionate, outwardly maybe more outgoing, but also has like a center of calm inside of them. With the fire sign and the earth sign right here, I have to point out that these are kind of square aspects to each other. So there is slight tension in this relationship. I feel like a lot of you I feel like are talking about a previous friend that you had, like a friendship that maybe didn't work out or didn't turn out too well. But for a lot of other of you, this could have also been romantic. This could have also been a relationship type thing. Now I'm definitely seeing right off the bat, the mouse person was definitely very like scared of the tarantula person, but actually found them very unique and interesting because if you know enough about tarantulas, they can seem very scary, but they're also very harmless. So this person might have a big, tough outer shell or be like very jumpy or all over the place, but at the same time, on the inside, they're a total softie. They would never hurt a fly. You know, funny, they're spiders, they eat flies, but like, you know what I mean? They would never like hurt anyone or bite anyone that would try to pick them up or anything like that. Now, both creatures actually are both really small and about the same size as each other. And so what I'm seeing is that you both matched equally. Like there was an equal point for point match with you guys when you guys started getting down and like communicating, basically. Now, something about the tarantula person in the beginning of the relationship, and one of kind of like, with the main lessons that you guys learned, the tarantula learned individuality and the mouse person learned about communication. Now it's interesting because I see this mouse person maybe starting out, or before they came into this connection, being a little bit more extroverted, maybe being a little bit more social, a little bit more talkative, even though they had kind of like a calm outer being, right? They had like an inner anxiety, right? This person was definitely more communicative. And it's interesting because this communication is not just the fact that this person learned communication, but they learned inner communication. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the reading, all of these cards are in reverse, indicating that there's a lot going on in the head in this relationship. There's a lot of like time spent alone, introverted, talking about deeper thoughts, deeper feelings, stuff like that. There's not too much superficial interaction. It was a very deep kind of meaningful interaction, but there was still a lot of tension in the interaction, the communication. With the tarantula person just didn't really accept inspiration in their own mind. They were kind of feeling very uninspired, very dull in their inner world. And so when they met this mouse person, one of the first things that kind of came up to them, or that the mouse person either would have mentioned or inspired in them, was the sense that they could follow their own inspirations, follow what the universe was giving them, follow the paths that the universe had laid out for them. And it's interesting, the tarantula person with the mouse person over here, I'm seeing this as something very symbiotic. Like the mouse, symbiotic might not be the right word, synchronistic, I guess you could say, because the mouse person with the emperor here, it's basically, the emperor is talking about not putting down any roots or not putting down a stable, firm structure. You know, with the emperor kind of being the authority and kind of putting down the law or setting up a structure or a system, like you can think of typical governments and stuff like that. But in reverse, this is like the mouse person not wanting to set up kind of like a structure in their own life. There's an element here that the mouse person wanted a free lifestyle, a free way of being, you know, a lot of freedom and not really setting down or putting down strict, hard, fast rules or a hard set schedule or something like that. And the tarantula person, interestingly enough, kind of fit into that vibe with them. I definitely see that the tarantula person was able to adapt to the mouse person's like free flowingness and kind of get on their wavelength. Whether or not you as the tarantula person or whoever's watching this, if you resonate with the tarantula person, whether or not you are scheduled, regimented, or more free flowing and kind of like spontaneous like the mouse person, you were able to get down on their level and become spontaneous with them. I'm definitely seeing with a lot of you who picked a lot of you who are resonating with the tarantula, you have this And I don't mean to say like, you're both, well, you are both. That's what I'm trying to say, is that you can be very organized and structured and fit into an organized routine. And you can also fit into a more chaotic, spontaneous routine. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about you over here, is that there's a sense of adaptability that's really, really strong, that was able to bridge a kind of quick connection with this mouse person and this Emperor card in reverse. This mouse person was in a place where they didn't want to set down any roots, set down any structures in their life, basically. So the first thing that like the tarantula person kind of learns, or the first lesson they learn from the mouse person, is to accept inspiration that comes their way. And that's kind of something the mouse person even represented to the tarantula person, because every once in a while the mouse person would come into their view, kind of be like, hey, let's do this, or hey, let's have this, let's go do this, or let's do this. So the tarantula person was learning to accept those spontaneous offerings from the universe. And it also helped them with like spontaneous offerings in their own mind, because the way that mouse person, with this 8 of Wands card right here, the way the mouse person had like impulses to do things, correct? They had kind of like inspiration, and they would move on that inspiration immediately. And so that's the thing with the tarantula person, is they learned how to accept inspiration like that and kind of move more impulsively, more kind of jumping on the opportunity. You can think of this tarantula as more like a frozen tarantula, but like kind of finding their inner fire. So that was one thing that you kind of learned as the tarantula person from the mouse person, is finding your inner flame, inner fire. And that does lead in eventually to the individuality, which I'll get to in a second. And the mouse person, on the other hand, was learning about like the fact that someone could be on their level, or they just kind of, this is before the mouse person really learned too much, but they kind of had this idea of like having a friend basically, or having someone that could get on their level or their wavelength. Although I'm not seeing it as like too major of a lesson, because I see the mouse person is already kind of learned to be spontaneous and accept kind of what comes along. And they already have kind of like a quick mind with lots of like insights and stuff. But this is where it gets interesting. When the tarantula person started becoming more grateful for everything in their life, because the mouse person is also helping this tarantula person with becoming more grateful. In fact, I'm definitely seeing that the mouse person doesn't really appreciate the tarantula person until the very end of the connection, end of the relationship, but throughout has learned better communication skills. So I feel like most of you who came to this pile, you are probably, you're either the tarantula person wondering kind of like, what did this person learn from you? And if you are, they didn't learn as much as you learned from them, I'll be honest. And if you are the mouse person coming to this reading, you're probably wondering what the tarantula person learned from you, because you probably already know that you probably didn't learn as much from them as they learned from you, but you're just kind of trying to figure out like, what did, they learn from me? Yeah, so the tarantula person is very stimulated by this mouse person's kind of quick thinking, kind of like the spontaneous insights that come to their mind. It kind of inspires them to follow their insights that come into their mind as well. This is also, because of this mouse person, there's something about self-worth here with the tarantula person, that the mouse person taught the tarantula person self-worth. And that's where we come into the individuality here, because it's right in this 9 of Cups energy, where the mouse person was teaching the tarantula person, probably through this communication. I'm seeing with this 8 of Wands. Now, the thing is, the 8 of Wands is in reverse. So this is an inward communication. The mouse person is teaching the tarantula person literally how to speak to themselves in their own mind. And that's kind of the interesting thing here. This connection could have had some kind of psychic overtones to it, like kind of intuitively picking up on the other person's vibes, or seeing kind of their inner world versus their outer world, kind of being more connected to that inner world. And the mouse person is really with this kind of like 8 of Wands, kind of able to communicate quickly back and forth between both inner worlds. I'm seeing at this point, the mouse person is not so much as scared as the tarantula person, but still a little wary, because of just the tarantula person has such a massive presence, basically. Yeah, this mouse person has probably, one of the things the mouse person learned from the tarantula person is they've probably never communicated on an internal level with someone before, kind of communicating about like deeper things in each other's lives, or communicating with stuff that really means a lot to each one. I'm definitely seeing that both parties really discovered and talked about what meant a lot to both of them, kind of on an individual level. That's where having individuality and communication, and kind of they're paired up, if you kind of like pair them up together, you have this aspect of like both parties being really in tune with who they are on an individual level, separate from society, and truly being able to communicate a lot with each other. You might find, or you might have found in this connection, that you both had a lot of similarities. There's something about like similar interests or similarities, or having the same type of inner world, and basically being able to discuss things and realizing, wow, like our inner worlds are very, very similar, very, very connected, or unified, I guess. Yeah, so basically the mouse person with this sense of communication, they're able to navigate their mind better. And with this magician card, they're able to manifest things for both the tarantula person and the mouse person. So I'm definitely seeing this mouse person as somewhat more of a mystical character, even though they're more grounded than the tarantula person. I see them as more kind of like having a more sense of like mystical ability, especially when we have the magician here in reverse. They're able to get things done in the connection. And I definitely see this mouse person becoming more of the powerhouse of like, you know, doing things for the connection. Maybe like, and this can include spiritual things, and it can also include like physical things, like maybe going to the store for the tarantula person, or going to the market to get them something, or maybe they help them out with some chores around the house or something like that. But I'm definitely seeing with this mouse person, there's this sense of action and magic that they're creating in their own mind that makes them feel very powerful. And in a way, it creates them to have a little bit less anxiety going on. And it's interesting, it's a paradoxical thing, because at first, this tarantula person caused them a little bit of anxiety. And then later, this mouse person kind of realized, like, wow, this is more of a calming presence than an anxiety kind of presence. Or this is kind of having more of a calming effect on me. This is able to help me get things done, get me motivated and stuff. Now, it's interesting because for a lot of you, I'm still seeing this connection as something that maybe has passed on, or this person's not in your life anymore. Now, they could still be in your life. It's just that the reason I'm saying it seems like it's passed on is because with the 4 of Swords here and the 8 of Wands in reverse and stuff, there's this aspect of like high intense energy, like there's an energy overload, like maybe too much inner world work and too much communication in the inner worlds got a little overstimulating, and you had to kind of part ways or separate a little bit. But basically with this accepting inspiration on the tarantula persons and the mouse person kind of being this kind of like more magician type provider, the mouse person is learning about communication, basically in a relationship or in a friendship, how to communicate better, because usually this mouse person probably only saw the outer world of things. They probably only saw the surface type things in people's lives. And now they're seeing more of the inner world, like what's going on inside of people. How can I communicate with them on an individual level? And the tarantula person is really discovering their individuality. And it's basically all because this connection is not so much what someone has taught you, it's just kind of how you both are resonating is kind of how I'm seeing it. And it's kind of bringing out different aspects in both of you. So for the mouse person, it's benefiting their communication, resonating on that internal level. And for the tarantula person, it's bringing out their individuality. The tarantula person, interestingly enough, might start dressing differently in this connection, or after they met this person, kind of starting to wear their own exciting new flair or style, or kind of like a vibe of getting really creative with how they look or their appearance, or basically their hobbies or lifestyle, or feeling more free to express their individuality, kind of what makes them separate from the group, because that internal vibration is so strong, it almost just has to be expressed outwardly. Yeah, I'm seeing if you guys split up, there's a fizzle out here with a connection with the tarantula person kind of wanting more rest and kind of space away from the connection, mainly because it's just such an intense vibration. It's such an intense vibrating connection. And the mouse person kind of being a little overstimulated in the magical realms or the magical domains, feeling a little too action focused and maybe not enough of, how do I put this? It's almost like the mouse person's pretty social, but they're feeling a little too action focused. Like they're getting too many things done. Which it's not really a bad thing. If you're getting a lot of stuff done, you're taking care of things in your life, that's a really good thing. But sometimes it can get overwhelming. Maybe you don't need to have that much energy, So there's a sense of like wanting to separate from each other a little bit. And if you are still with this person or hanging out with this person, this might be good advice for you guys if you are still hanging out or together, to separate every once in a while and get that kind of like space from each other to recoup and realize this kind of sense of swords right here is kind of indicating a sense of rest, an internal rest, and it might not be so much of an activity in the external world, maybe except for the mouse person, but for the most part, it's this sense of like being too vibrating intensely on the inner world, needing some separate times to not just, not really to be by yourselves, but needing separate times to kind of be in the more outer world, if that makes sense. Kind of, because I'm definitely seeing there's a sense of like being too connected to the self and kind of needing that space because the relationship is so close on a psychic level that you need more space and more grounded external activities. So both parties might start doing more group activities, like the tarantula person I can see maybe like joining a sports team or something like that, or joining a book club or something like that. And the mouse person I definitely see has these avenues where they can communicate with others, and they're probably just going to go communicate with other people and maybe spend some more time alone to do some outwardly external magic kind of with the magician card, more like magical acts, and get in touch with their spiritual practice some more. Okay. I think that's about it. Let me see if I can see anything else. Yeah, the main lessons that was learned from both parties, the tarantula person really truly learned how to be an individual, their individuality, right? It's almost like they had to be heard on an internal scale by someone and kind of have their individuality validated instead of just kind of resonating with themselves. This is just kind of their path in life, that they needed to have their individuality resonate with someone outside themselves, which no one was really able to see their individuality side. So now that they can express it, they can carry that with them through life. That's kind of their lesson they learned from you, or if you're the mouse person. And if you're the tarantula person, the mouse person's thing that they learned from you is communicating on the internal scale with someone. They got a little bit better at it, There's definitely something of a one-of-a-kind connection really resonating with you guys. So I feel like for a lot of you, if you're separate from this person, you might still remember them fondly or miss them, but then realize it might not be that good of a thing to come back to. Because of this kind of like intensity of the vibration of the energy. Now, for a lot of you, I can see you guys making this work, kind of spending some time together and some time apart and really creating a beautiful connection where you just have to separate it with a little bit of time and space for both of you. So yeah, really, really good connection. For most of you, I'm seeing this as like a friendship. Not really romantic, but for another few of you, I'm seeing kind of like this could have been a romantic connection. It really could go either way with this pile. So definitely take what resonates. That was your reading. That concludes your reading. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please like or comment below. If this reading was really mind-blowing to you and you really resonate with my energy, feel free to join my channel by subscribing. And with that said, we're going to move on to group 2 with the Hemimorphite. Thanks again, guys. Hello, all my lovely people that chose this Hemimorphite crystal. This will be your reading, group 2. So let's get into it. So we had some oracle cards drawn. I'll flip over the rest of the cards right now. Oh, cool. Intuition. We love to see that. And relationship change. So we have octopus, intuition, relationship change, and rabbit for your oracle cards. And for your tarot cards, we have temperance in reverse, 10 of swords in reverse, ace of wands upright, the hanged man, I forgot to mention these ones, the hangman reversed, and the 7 of wands reversed. We also have the 6 of cups reversed. Okay, so let's get into this reading. First of all, I want to be, for like most of you, like 90% of you, this was a romantic situation because we just have relationship change here, which indicates that you guys were with this person for a period of time. I'm seeing that you're not together now, or if you're still with this connection with this person, there's a chance that you guys might split up. But it is for the, it's for the better in a sense. There is for some of you, this could have been a friendship, but I'm definitely seeing more relationship vibes for most of you. So this could have been a lover or someone you were into for a little bit or something like that. So let's get into it. So first, the octopus person and the rabbit person. So the octopus person is a water sign, or we have the water sign over here, and the rabbit person is a earth sign. So we have the rabbit, which is a little bit more grounded. Their energy is going to be a little bit more chaotic. This person with rabbits, I always think of high sex drive. So this person may have had like a strong or high sex drive, or kind of like a flirtatious nature. But it's interesting with relationship change and the Six of Cups over here. I see that they were extremely loyal to one particular partner, not the octopus person, but they were loyal to one particular partner who they devoted almost too much energy and attention to, because this person, I feel like with the Six of Cups representing the past here, this was a past connection with them. And with the Six of Cups also, I don't know if you see these two children giving, one giving to the other. In the reverse, this indicates like a lack of balance in the give and take spheres. I definitely see this rabbit person devoting too much of their, self-esteem even to this person, this other person. They kind of had to suffer in their sense of self, or their sense of, not pride, they lost a little bit of their strength in this relationship. They suffered. They gave a little bit too much. They stayed too long. This rabbit person definitely is the type of person who needs to be free and explore. And I feel like this rabbit person's very young. Whether if you're watching this reading and you're resonating with the rabbit person, whether you're young or not, you're going through a period of your life where you need to be in that youthful state. You need to kind of explore all your options, and you need to kind of get out there and just get more experience. I definitely see that with this Ace of Wands card, there's a sense that when you met this octopus person, you were coming into the connection with almost like this burst of energy and kind of like ability and wanting and yearning to explore. So this octopus person, interestingly enough, just like the rabbit person kind of needs to explore all areas of their life, the octopus person has very wise, very smart, with this kind of like, they have their head kind of filled with these colors, right? And they have all these tentacles, right? The way I'm seeing this is this octopus person, first of all, very, very smart about the world around them, very like tuned in. And also with the many, many tentacles, they have a hand in every single pond is probably not the right expression. They have a hand in every single pot. They kind of know what is going on in every other person's life around them, and they're kind of they're just very clearly in tune with the outer world and everyone else's lives. Basically, they kind of know what perspective everybody else is going through, and kind of have this kind of like sense of intuition about it. Now it's interesting, they might not be that intuitive before they met the rabbit person, or they may have had an intuition, they might have had a very strong intuition, but the lesson they learned is to really, A, follow their intuition, and B, kind of the way their intuition can be used to help people. So with the Temperance card in reverse here, this octopus person, before they met the rabbit person, like right before, was like very lost. Temperance is kind of my card about like divine intervention or being looked after by divine beings. And there was just a sense of being lost, a sense of like lacking balance. With this Temperance card, with her pouring water from one cup into the next cup, it's all about like pouring too much water from one cup to the next, kind of like spreading too thin. And it's not necessarily that the octopus person is spread too thin, because I see that's like a strength of theirs, is to kind of know what's going on in every aspect of other people's lives, or even their lives, like having kind of like a knowledge about all these different facets, right? Think of one of their tentacles reaching out to all these different areas and kind of getting all this information and kind of building their psychic knowledge and their brain power, basically by just through crazy amounts of experience and learning through the world. I'm definitely seeing they're in this experience stage and they're learning through the world, but they're not synthesizing that worldview or that experience from all these different perspectives into their intuition, right? Into their mind, into their cerebral cortex. I guess you could say into their third eye and their crown, basically, which is like where most intuition kind of comes from. So yeah, they're kind of in this state of, how do I put this? Disarray, I guess you could say. They don't feel connected or tuned into the universe. They're very busy and they're very active in their outer life and kind of exploring many different things, but they don't feel connected. They don't feel tuned in. They don't feel unified with their environment. They don't feel like they're learning lessons. They're not synthesizing the experience into lessons, or this experience into kind of like, I guess you could say like downloads, or Yeah, there's something about this rabbit person coming into their life that gets their mind working a little bit, just gets their head like maybe just slightly, but gets their head kind of tingling. Like I said, they're already very intuitive just from their wide array of experience they have in their life, this lifetime, and just the fact that they have a foot in every pond, basically. I know that expression. I can't think of the actual expression. I know foot in every pond is not right, but bear with me. I think you guys know what I mean. They just kind of have a hand in every pot. Is that the right expression? For the life of me, I can't think of this expression. Anyway, so they already have a sense of intuition because they just have a sense of perspective where they know what's going on in all these different areas of their life. So they have a different facet of understanding for all these different groups of people. So in a way, they're able to see the big picture. They're just not putting the big picture together in their mind. They're not kind of cultivating a one worldview or a one kind of encompassing image of the world. It's kind of like disparate pieces. And so with this Temperance card, it's just indicating that they're a little unbalanced with kind of what's going on in their life at this moment. But when they meet the rabbit person, it's quite interesting because we have a few things happening. The octopus person, this was like the lesson you learned, and kind of like as the octopus person, the reason this rabbit person came into your life was to save you from a very disastrous fate. I'm definitely seeing something very bad happening to the octopus person. And you might be thinking like, well, this rabbit person was like such a risk taker or such a wild card, you know, because I'm definitely seeing with this Ace of Wands and this Ten of Swords reverse being in the same position while you guys meet, there's definitely this vibe of like the rabbit being a little more risky than the octopus person. But I'm definitely seeing there was something bad was going to happen to the octopus person, and they totally avoided it by meeting the rabbit person. Like the rabbit person, think of this Temperance card upright, kind of became this angel and kind of saved them from this kind of like fate, right? They kind of came in and kind of got them out of this situation. So they definitely saved them from this situation that they were about to be in that was going to be disastrous, right? And they got them out of it. And interestingly enough, the rabbit person gets with the octopus person, saw something who, for most of you, because I said this is romantic for most of you, saw someone who is very beautiful. Yes, the rabbit person thought you were very beautiful, very alluring, very captivating, and it really motivated them into action and to get out of that previous relationship, right? They jumped the gun, they jumped out of that relationship, left this person in the dust who was just draining their energy, like completely exhausting them, and moved in towards this octopus person and kind of started hanging out with them, flirting with them, being with them, kind of charming them. And so the octopus person I'm definitely seeing was really gratified by this kind of attention and was really like happy because it kind of distracted the octopus from this other situation that was going to be pretty devastating. This card also has a double meaning as far as the rabbit person, because I'm seeing both of you, the rabbit and octopus, kind of having this like tag team vibe, like partner vibe, like not necessarily like ride or die, but definitely like kind of like you're going on a ride and you're avoiding death. That's kind of what I mean by that. Like you both are on this crazy ride together, this crazy adventure. I definitely see this kind of a whirlwind romance type of thing. And at the same time, with this motivation from the Ace of Wands and this avoidance right here of the Ten of Swords, it really created the octopus to be aware of danger. You know, they just needed someone who's a little bit more risky than them to kind of shake up the water, to make them aware like, whoa, this water's moving. I need to be more aware of certain things in this environment. I need to be able to kind of have better control or ability to predict certain things that are going to happen. And that's where their intuition starts budding up. And that's the really cool thing about this octopus. They start seeing things in advance. They start seeing dangers in advance because the rabbit person is so active and so like passionate, I guess you could say, and like wild, and they're kind of just enjoying like being out of this relationship. So their kind of like wild side is just flourishing. They're being so active and kind of outgoing, I guess you could say. The octopus person, with all their crazy amounts of experience, starts to foresee certain things the rabbit person is going to do and that both of them are going to do together. And that's where the octopus starts building their intuition. This is kind of the lesson that's supposed to be learned for the octopus person, is to utilize this intuition and build this intuition into their mind. The rabbit person, on the other hand, is just so happy to be out of this relationship. You know, this is the type of person, this octopus person, who is inspiring to this rabbit person. And because this octopus person, in a weird sense, has partly stuff that the rabbit person wants, because the octopus person kind of has a hand in every pond, or a foot in every pond, my expression I'm using that doesn't make sense. Because they have a foot in every pond, right? this rabbit person sees that and they're like, whoa, they can be everywhere at once. Like they have like total freedom. They're literally everywhere at once. They're everything. I was so tied down to this person who was just sucking me dry, and now they've like left. This rabbit person has like exploded out of the nest. And with this Ace of Wands card, I'm definitely saying there could have been, for a lot of you, there's a sexual component or a romantic component. There could have been an element of like, you learned lessons as far as like, romance together. Like you learned how to be intimate or learn different ways or skills or talents, I guess you could say, of like intimacy with each other. And so I definitely see a really strong connection, a really strong relationship. And this rabbit person, though, the only thing is if you're the octopus person, you're like, well, why did they leave if it was so good? Well, that's the thing with the relationship change. They had to learn that they could break away from this one relationship in their life. This kind of like really, it was almost like a toxic relationship. And so when they found you, it was like this brand new thing, they could leave. But the thing is like they need to learn how to leave again and again and again and again. It's going to be a while before this rabbit person finally settles down with someone, because they have to learn to kind of like explore the world, explore the environment, kind of be in many places. And the thing is, they can't really be this octopus person. They can't be in many places at once. So they have to kind of explore step by step. And with this Ace of Wands, their energy's back, So I definitely see you guys had a really connected, compatible relationship. It's just that this rabbit person needed to explore. They needed to kind of like live their life and kind of, how do I put this? Yeah, basically just live their life. They were tied down for so long, they didn't really have a life to look back on. Like with this past card, the Six of Cups representing the past. When they looked at their past, they were just tied to this relationship. They didn't really have experiences or situations. So with this relationship change, this was kind of the lesson they learned from you, is that you can change your relationships, or you don't have to stay in a relationship for forever. You're allowed to leave it. You're allowed to move on. You're allowed to do different things. You're allowed to bring in different people, I definitely see with you guys that there is a strong element for most of you that you stayed friends after the relationship ended. If the relationship did end, I definitely see that you guys stayed friends, or kind of like stayed close, or you remember each other fondly. It's just kind of like, I see for the octopus person, for most of you watching this, like, why did they leave? And the reason they left was because that's the lesson you were teaching them, is like, there's a big world out there, right? And both of you explored that world together. You both kind of were together exploring different things in the world, having different fun activities and doing different things. But it's just like they still need to go, because the thing is they need to experience more relationships, because they're one of their things in their destiny with this rabbit person. And if you are the rabbit person, you know this at this point, you need to experience many different relationships before you can settle and finally find the one. That's kind of like the path in life that is laid out for you. I guess like your destiny. I mean, you can always change that. And if you do find someone who is the one, by all means, stay with that person. I mean, don't just run off and keep exploring if you find someone who's really perfect. But this person just needs to explore a certain amount of relationships before they settle down. And that's just kind of how their vibe is. So let's get into it in depth more. So these experiences is giving the rabbit person more freedom. The octopus person is learning to avoid disaster and in a way use their intuition to foresee negative turns of events. With the last cards, right? I'm definitely seeing that another thing too is that with this rabbit person probably stood up for you, like, often. And you probably, with the octopus person, especially because it's an octopus, they kind of have this malleable temperament. They don't really have a backbone. I'm definitely seeing that this octopus person has to learn, and this is a little bit after the rabbit person leaves or moves on, they have to learn how to stand up for themselves to like their whole environment. And they're kind of learning too, just like this rabbit person had to break away from this kind of toxic relationship they were in. The octopus person, in a way, has to learn how to put up resistance to the forces outside of themselves, right? They can be connected to everything, but the fact is, in order to preserve their intuition and their wisdom and their understanding of what ways to go and not go, and what to get into and what not to get into, there is this element that they have to put up some sort of resistance to their outer world. They can't just be totally engulfed in outer activities to the point of kind of just leaving their mind kind of empty. They have to kind of build up this resistance and build up their inner world by, in a sense, like finding their own I wouldn't say individuality. I'm just saying there's a sense of like needing to protect yourself from external activities and kind of build more of like your center of yourself. So this could be self-love. This could be any kind of introverted thing. This could even be shadow work, like learning to dig in and do some shadow work. But mostly I'm seeing this sense of intuition. And I see this octopus person is really like wanting to expand on this intuition. So it's almost like it's natural for them. Like if you're the octopus person, you're going to realize like it was natural for you to retreat from activities, retreat from things in your environment because you wanted to explore this intuitive component because it started growing in your head and it started growing in you. And it was almost like you really wanted to like dig deeper into it. So you had to block yourself off a little bit from outside forces. And I see that's kind of where you are now, kind of after being a little bit blocked off, like just kind of enveloping and developing your intuition and kind of like getting really strong with your intuitive capabilities. Now the rabbit person, on the other hand, with the hangman card in reverse, there is this whole aspect with the rabbit person, a relationship change with this hangman, they kind of start to get a little impatient. And they don't want to take pauses almost in between relationships. So something that they're doing, and this is totally like normal. This is not, there's no like rule book that says we have to be in a relationship and then have a break in between relationships or anything like that. The rabbit person realizes they want to kind of just explore all these different people, all these different situations. So I definitely see the rabbit person flirting with a whole bunch of people, kind of exploring their options, kind of discovering what different people are like, kind of romantically and kind of like in the flirting sense, you know. So the rabbit person might become a little bit of a player in this connection. And they kind of learn this. They kind of learn this from the octopus person that they're allowed to kind of play the field. They're allowed to explore. They're allowed to have adventures. They're allowed to go out and do things. With this hangman kind of in reverse, this also might be a reason that both of you separate, or that you did separate, or that why you might be, if you guys are separated, you're in a separation, is because the octopus person does become a little bit more introverted with their intuition, and the rabbit person becomes a little more extroverted. It's almost like the rabbit person was stuck in this relationship where it was just them and this other person, and they were kind of tied down. This octopus person was everywhere and had a foot in every pond. And when they got together, they kind of had a melding point where the octopus person got a little bit more introverted, the rabbit person got a little bit more extroverted, and then they just kind of passed each other by and switched places. Now this rabbit person is very extroverted, and the octopus person, on the other hand, is very introverted and really just delving into their intuition. So definitely a lot that you both learn from each other. Definitely. The octopus person mainly gaining like a new spiritual, intuitive worldview, which is just amazing. And the rabbit person also gaining kind of like a more adventurous, passionate, active, outgoing side to themselves that was just boiling underneath. They just needed someone to allow them to have it. And that's something that this octopus person did. And for some of you, it could have even been a conversation like this, where the octopus person, the rabbit person were like together, and they realized like the rabbit person's like, I'm enjoying spending so much time with you, but like I really want to be free and explore. And the octopus person's like, that's what I wanted for you this whole time. I know it's sad I have to see you go, but like I'm really excited that you get to like live your life and be yourself and be your true authentic self, you know? So I'm definitely seeing a really strong like sympathetic vibes with both of you and kind of going your own ways in a really peaceful kind of way. For like a very rare few of you, this was a chaotic relationship departure. For a lot of you, this was a really beautiful experience. And I'm seeing you both grew from it tremendously. You know, maybe one day further down the line, you two meet up again and you guys decide to make something more serious. And maybe, you know, if you really, this person was the one for you, maybe you do get married to them. That's for the ones of you who want a relationship like this in the future. You know, if you had that kind of such a good time in this connection, you know, maybe down the line, someone like them themselves or someone like them will come into your life and kind of make that happen. So just a little positive thing to throw out there for you guys. But yeah, that was your reading. I hope you really enjoyed the reading. If you did enjoy the reading, please like or comment below. If you really enjoyed this reading or you really resonate with my energy and enjoyed this pick a card, please subscribe to my channel. We're always welcoming new subscribers here, and it would be lovely to have you guys. Really, it would. And with that said, we're going to move on to group 3 with the Prehnite. Thanks a lot. Thanks again, guys. Hey, group 3. This is if you picked this lovely Prehnite crystal The bubbliest of all the bubbles. Yeah, that's the Prehnite. Really good for the heart chakra and getting over kind of like, I help use it to calm my mind if I start to get any kind of OCD kind of thoughts or like obsessive thoughts. I can't get my mind off a certain topic or subject or something. I'll wear some Prehnite and absorb its energy. Thoughts get really clear after that. So that's what it's good for if you wanted to know. Let's get into your reading. So for your first oracle card, we have Earthworm and Tiger. Then for your things, lessons learned, for Earthworm, we have love. And for Tiger, we have compassion. Very cool. And then let's get into your tarot cards. We have King of Wands down here at the end, but let's flip over the rest. We have Nine of Pentacles. Very cool. 10 of Wands reversed. 4 of Wands reversed. The Chariot reversed, and Ace of Pentacles upright. Okay, so far in these readings, I have not pointed it out, but there have been like 4 master numbers. I think in the first group we had 11, 11, and 33. Second group we had 22, and this group we have 99. So we have a lot of master numbers coming through, indicating that my best guess is that you guys are mastering your relationships. I mean, that's kind of what I'm taking from that. So take that if it resonates. Yeah, but let's get into this connection with Earthworm and Tiger. First of all, with Earthworm, this is a person who has like a rich inner world, but they're a little blind. I mean, this is like someone who is so blissed out in their own mind, but at the same time, like can't see the earth around them, can't see anything around them. Like their dream world's fantastic, wonderful, amazing, rich, beautiful, but at the same time, they can't really like, they don't really know how to navigate in the world, I guess is the best way to put it. They're kind of inept. Like if you look at this comparison, you have the Earthworm and the Tiger. Tiger is like the super powerful being. We see with this crescent moon and this third eye, this person is a warrior and a psychic warrior at that. And with the fire sign here, this person is passionate, intense. With the earth sign over here, there is a tension with this connection, like a slight tension with compatibility as far as like kind of just like really easily relating to one another. But we see here down here that you guys really did help each other learn a lot of lessons or balance each other out in like different ways. The main lessons that you both learn from each other are love and compassion. Interestingly enough, it's very separate from the vibes that we're getting down here. So there is like 2 streams of thought. There's like 2 things going on, and almost like you can think of this as like a conscious and subconscious learning, but there is something that you're learning on one level and then something you're learning on another level. And the way I'm seeing it with both of these cards is that one person is learning something on the conscious level, and that's the same thing the other person's learning subconsciously, and vice versa. So we do have a little bit of mirroring in that regard. Overall, this is a very positive connection. There is some tension though. I just want to point that out, that this is probably not all butterflies and rainbows, and especially because these creatures are so far away from each other on the animal kingdom. They live in like completely different worlds. Like the Earthworm and a Tiger, like basically with Earthworm, we have Earthworm, then it goes to, the birds are eating the Earthworm, and then like maybe something else is eating the birds, then that creature eats, and then the Tiger eats that. So like on the food chain level, they're like far apart. They're like in different worlds, basically, completely different worlds, completely different lands. Although both are very psychic, both are very intuitive. The Earthworm more in like a dreamy sense, more like imagination and kind of like coming up with like fantastic ideas and just kind of having a rich inner world. The Tiger actually with their third eye activated, gaining intuitive insights about the world around them and being able to see very clearly. With this Tiger's very intense gaze, I see this Tiger as being able to see very accurately into the world around them, everything that's going on. So let's get to where you guys were before you entered the connection and kind of your energies. I'm definitely seeing your energies kind of like coming, like starting here, kind of connecting. And then right in here, there's this vibe of like, kind of like learning a different lesson, Yeah, so with the earthworm, with this Nine of Pentacles, this earthworm is kind of like an indulge until you die type of person. Like this earthworm kind of is like freely spending their money, freely living the life, feeling very independent, not really needing anyone. Kind of really like, they may be like, you guys, if you're the earthworm person, you may have a lot of wealth built up and you may be spending it freely, just kind of feeling very independent, very free with your money. With the bird here that she's holding, I'm definitely saying that there is something about a guide or a spiritual like guru or something that is helping you and telling you like, just live your life, let it fly, like let yourself live, like feel free to spend on that, feel free to spend on this, like you'll be taken care of, the universe has got you. This is very much an abundance mindset, right? And the earthworm, it just seems like is an indulging to kind of keep this inner world kind of alive and kind of flourishing, right? Now, this tiger person, on the other hand, is in a very different mindset. With the King of Wands vibe over here, we're getting the sense that this tiger person is ready to pounce. And like King of Wands also reminds me of very like tiger vibes as well. And tiger and the King of Wands coming out in the same reading, this is like a very strong indication that this person is like the type of person who is ready to leap at any given moment, right? They're always ready. They're always watching. They're always just ready to jump into action. If someone says jump, they're already there. They've like jumped already and they've like gotten it done. They're a doer to the extreme. Not so much as like the Knight of, like you can think of I see the Knight of Swords very similar to the King of Wands in this regard, but the difference is the Knight of Swords is like charging ahead and going against the grain. The King of Wands, on the other hand, is ready to move. It's all about readiness. Just like the tiger waits for its prey and lies in wait, this is a vibe of like being ready, being still, being quiet, but having all the muscles in your body ready to pounce at any given moment, right? So that's something the tiger is going through right now. And with the King of Wands coming through here, this is a mastery of motivation. This is a mastery of self-control in that respect. And so with the King of Wands, this tiger has reached a point in their life where they've mastered this ability to kind of like motivate themselves and others and kind of get things done and kind of be ready at any given moment to like take care of the need in their environment. You know, the wands indicating like a sense of motivation or a sense of energy and even like spirituality at some points. There is this element with the King of Wands of like being like knowing so much that you have the energy for something, knowing so well that you could do anything and just lying in wait, ready for that moment, ready for that time when someone says something, ready to just get into action basically. But, you know, being patient and waiting for the right time, you know, it's a very intuitive thing here. You know, you have someone who is waiting for the right time to act, not necessarily just rushing into the action, kind of like the Knight of Swords, but with the King of Wands, they're like ready. You know, if you look at this guy, like he's looking off into the distance, he has his hand poised on his wand, he's kind of sitting up straight in his chair, he's just ready and he's kind of alert, ready to kind of jump. And same with the tiger. So there's like double confirmation of like strong. If that's your personality, then you're definitely probably vibing with this tiger over this earthworm. Now this earthworm, on the other hand, I'm seeing is like, I don't want to say lazy because that's, you know, that's kind of mean, but this earthworm's not really like lazy. They just can't see. They just don't know where to go. They're, you know, earthworms are kind of basically blind. They just like move through the dirt, but they have this rich inner world, this rich inner landscape, you know? So this earthworm's just kind of indulging, munching on the soil, kind of vibing, kind of being slow, you know, just kind of being on the bottom of the food chain while the tiger's on the top. So it's very interesting that these two meet, and the way they meet is quite interesting as well. First of all, the tiger in this kind of connection helps this earthworm get a lot of stuff done. Like the earthworm can drop so many responsibilities because this tiger has got it covered, right? I almost did quotes, but there's no need for quotes. The tiger just has this covered. The tiger has this kind of vibe covered. The earthworm can drop a lot of responsibilities. The earthworm learns that they don't really need to work too hard. And these might not necessarily be material responsibilities, right? With the King of Wands here, this is kind of indicating like motivation and stuff like that, but we're getting so much intuitive information. I'm really drawn to like focus in on that intuitive component in this connection. This earthworm might have been taking up a lot of intuitive responsibilities, dealing with a lot of spiritual stuff and having a lot of weight on their shoulders in the spiritual department. And they're finally able to just let some of that stuff go. You know, they're finally able to just kind of like relax and like drop some of these wands, drop some of these burdens that they're carrying on them. And I mean, I'm really called in this reading to say to whoever's the earthworm person, you will know what that means to you. Because for a lot of people, these burdens are going to be different. For some of you, it's going to be like physical responsibilities. For some of you, it's going to be carrying on the burdens of others. For others of you, it's going to just be a spiritual clarity that's coming through. So it's going to be very different for a lot of you in this earthworm pile. But this tiger basically makes your load easier. They take basically like 50 pounds off your back and you're just like flying through that dirt, right? you're an earthworm on a mission now. Anyway, so the tiger, interestingly enough, realizes that this earthworm person with this Ace of Pentacles kind of information, like right here, realizes that this earthworm person is like, has such, because of their intuitive gifts, this tiger person is kind of like, okay, this is like a diamond in the rough. Like this person can really, like, I can really, kind of capitalize on this person, or utilize their potential to the fullest. The aces are all about like potential and beginnings and stuff. So that's kind of what this, tiger person is realizing about the earthworm person. They're just sitting there, like not doing anything. And like, I can utilize their potential. I can like make this work to my advantage, to everyone's advantage, to the group's advantage, and so there's definitely a sense of like wanting to capitalize on the earthworm person. And so the tiger person in exchange helps like unload some responsibilities from the earthworm person. It's almost like it's in preparation for this like kind of business activity. So right here, we already have a sense of compassion and love. There is a component with, there is a sense of compassion and love already, and it's almost separate from the cards. Like I said, there's kind of like one vibe going on here and another vibe going on here. So there's always like two parallel streams that are kind of always hand in hand, going side by side. So on one hand, there's this like business element, like lightening the load and business opportunities on one hand. Then on the other hand, there's just this pure love and compassion and really like empathizing with the other ones. I'm definitely seeing this intuitive, this dream world, and then this third eye sight that this tiger have really are correlating in like a beautiful way. They really see like a deep respect for each other in that regard. One of the things that like happens when the connection like gets further, and one of the like lessons you learn from each other, the earthworm is learning they can take things easy. They don't have to push so hard. They don't have to really, and it's like they feel lighter. The earthworm just learns that you don't have to feel heavy all the time. You don't have to feel weighed down all the time. You don't have to feel like I said, this tiger person literally just took 50 pounds off this earthworm's back and just like threw it in the trash, and this earthworm can just fly. Like this earthworm is just flying, right? This tiger person, on the other hand, realizes that like this is another business connection. I can make like there's something about like making money or realizing connections with this Ace of Pentacles card. Specifically, business connections is what I see with the Ace of Pentacles. There is also a sense of inspiration of business ideas. This tiger person could be getting a sense of inspiration from this earthworm person as well. So that's something that they're learning as well. When you guys get closer, or when you have gotten closer, the relationship, how it goes is like, first of all, the earthworm person learns that like they can have like a fiesta in their mind or a party in their mind. They can kind of have like a big celebration in their head at all times. They don't have to worry. They don't have to stress. Their mind gets kind of cleared out. So this earthworm person was already very dreamy, but their mind is more activated now. Like there has this sense of like potent celebration in their own inner world where they feel just good being in their own heads. Like that's kind of something that's coming through strong. And with this tiger person, one thing they learned is they can just relax. They can take it easy. Where this King of Wands person is like always motivated, always poised, always ready to pounce on the next opportunity, lying in wait, ready to move. With this Chariot reverse, there is this energy, and especially we get with the parallel streams of thought with the Black Sphinx and the White Sphinx. And even the tiger with the black and white stripes, there is this element that this tiger can kind of let out kind of the disparate elements of their person and kind of like really relax naturally the different sides of them out into the world. So they don't have to really focus on being kind of like one codified moving force, right? They can kind of be like, okay, I want to let a little motivation off in this direction, or now I want to let a little motivation off in this direction. Okay, I want to kind of like just relax right now and let the sphinxes run all crazy on their own. This tiger lets go of a lot of self-control, a lot of kind of control, and kind of in a way this tiger might feel a sense of their muscles might loosen a little bit. There might be a sense of like muscle tension with this tiger person. Their muscles might loosen, where this earthworm who's like completely loose and completely just they're a worm. get these like tightening of their muscles and they can move faster. You know, it's like a weight's been lifted. So that's kind of the vibe I'm getting for you guys. One thing that both of you learn ultimately, besides all of this stuff, the tiger learns compassion from this earthworm person. They learn how to treat people fairly and kindly. They learn how to use their words in a kind and gentle way. And they learn that like, language kind of has an impact on people, right? And then this earthworm person learns like pure love from this tiger person. They learn that like it is okay to share and be vulnerable with yourself and to share love and to learn love, learn how to love and be in loving environments and all of that good stuff. Yeah, this is a really symbiotic connection. It's interesting though, because there is that like one element of tension that I'm seeing right here that I can't say it's totally perfect, so don't expect it to be totally perfect. Or you guys probably have noticed if you came to this reading and you've already gone through all this, you know it wasn't totally perfect. But there is this strong like connection with both of you, especially with love and compassion here. It's a really loving connection. All right, I really love reading for you guys. That was a really wonderful pile. If you liked that reading or you really enjoyed that reading, please like or comment below. If you really resonated with my energy and you like this channel and you kind of enjoyed the pick a card and how it was like the information was delivered and stuff like that, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm always welcoming new subscribers and we would love to have you. Yeah, with that said, there's one last group 4 with the blue lace agate. So I will see you guys for that group if that's your group. And group 3, I bid you adieu. Have a good one. And see you in the next pick a card. Hey, group 4, this is if you picked the blue lace agate. So we have this wonderful calming stone right here. Actually, before this pile, I'm trying to take breaks in between piles now because I used to just film them all back to back to back, all like next to each other. And my energy would get a little tired. So like I did a little mini meditation before this pile. I felt called to with that blue lace agate. So there's something about like, I don't know if I needed to be calm before this pile because I did the other 3 straight through and then just kind of went into a meditation before this pile. So maybe that's going to have an effect on the reading. We'll have to see. So for your animal oracle cards, we have one of you showing up as the gazelle and the other one of showing up as a hyena. So whichever one you resonate with as the reading goes in, that'll be who you are versus the person you're asking about. Yeah, and so we also have healing and adventure. So let's get into the tarot cards. We have the 9 of Swords here also on this side. So the tarot cards are the Star in reverse, the Knight of Swords in reverse, the 2 of Swords upright, and for the hyena we have the 3 of Cups reversed, the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, let's get into this pile. So I'll start with the animal oracle cards. Normally I review the readings before I start reading a little bit longer than I did this one, but I feel like most of it's going to come to me in the reading. Sometimes I get impressions like that I have to either analyze a little bit before or just kind of read as I go. And so with this one, I'm reading a little bit more read as I go, but we'll start with the gazelle and the hyena. So the gazelle animal, I will say this, is an animal that comes up a lot in my readings, and I don't know too much about gazelles in particular. There's something about this gazelle though, with the sun kind of in the background, kind of like wrapping around this gazelle, kind of like making me think of that this gazelle looking at you through the sun is almost like, I don't know if it's a blinding look or something about their eyes is very intriguing that I'm getting with this gazelle card. And it's also interesting because this gazelle seems like poised and kind of like alert, almost like reminding me of like a deer, you know, but I'm imagining gazelles in more hotter climates. So unlike a deer that's kind of poised and alert in a rich, lush forest or something like that, surrounded by abundance, I'm seeing this gazelle in an area of their life kind of where they're lacking in resources. There's a sense of scarcity, but they kind of make do with what they have, you know. There's something about that kind of like not having the full amount of what you need at any given time, but also kind of being like a very beautiful creature kind of in this like desert landscape. And so I'm definitely getting that kind of a vibe for this gazelle person. With the hyena person, this person is definitely more, hyenas can be very aggressive. So I'm definitely seeing this person as somewhat aggressive. And I also think of hyenas as like laughing like a crazy person when they like do something. If you look at this hyena, his fur and stuff is like matted and wild, and this moon is one side's light and one side's dark, indicating that this person has two sides to their personality. They do have a light side and they have a dark side. And I'm definitely seeing that this connection inspired a lot of like adventure and kind of craziness in both of you in a sense. We're seeing a few different things here. First of all, before you guys get into the connection, I can see it as the gazelle person. This is kind of a connection that caught you off guard. I mean, look at this gazelle. He looks like a deer in headlights, and with the sun behind him, it's also reminding me of kind of like the image of lights and your eyes meeting, you know, and being blinded by that light and kind of that nature. And with the star reversed, the star is my card that shows me when it's upright that the next step on your path is the correct one, right? The next step that you're going down is the correct path. So kind of like what your destiny is almost calling you to do. And with this gazelle person, I'm definitely seeing with the star card, there was a moment in time before they met this hyena person where they had like a path to take. And we see that again here with the Two of Swords. This is a reoccurring theme in your life. If you're the gazelle person, you're going to realize this. And something you probably realize through this connection is that you're going to have these paths to make, these different choices. Kind of like this, you know, aspect of like, you know, what path do I go down, this one or this one? I'm definitely seeing also with the star here, it's also important to kind of like, if you want to help with knowing what path to take, to get some spiritual guidance on that. You know, because I'm definitely seeing that like sometimes you choose a path that's like, and it's not like it's the wrong path, it's just kind of like, how do I put this? This is just kind of how your life is set up for you. It's different than other people's. It's like, your destiny is to kind of be beset by these choices over and over again, right? Like, and have yourself make these choices throughout your life. And with the star card here, it's almost like you made the wrong choice on purpose. Like you knew you wanted to go one way and you made the wrong choice on purpose. Like you kind of saying, I'm going to make the wrong choice and see where it leads me. It's almost like there was a sense of not trusting your intuition or something and making the wrong choice. And it's interesting because there's not really like a wrong or right choice, kind of like whatever we do, kind of there's always like other choices to be made and stuff like that. So there is a vibe that like the universe is trying to teach you like two lessons from this connection, like things that you're supposed to learn is like on one hand, like knowing that these choices make your life easier or harder, depending on what choice you choose, or involve more growth and development versus more pain and suffering. But there's also not really a wrong choice. You can always reorient yourself. It's not like when you choose one path, you're like down the path for good and the rest of your life's going to be bad and horrible. You know, it's like you have these choices. And if you make a bad choice or a good choice, you can always realign yourself, you know? Think of these choices as like tree branches, but there's a paradox here. It's like you're starting from the trunk and shooting out to the tree branches, but you can think of the branches kind of like all growing back together into a point at the top of the tree. So you can think no matter what choice you take, you're going to end up at the end of your life no matter what. It's just kind of the story that you're taking to get there. And there's a lot of elements of choice and free will in this pile, specifically, especially for this gazelle person. For this hyena person, one thing that they learned is that they don't have to, they can kind of go their own way, I guess is the best way to put it. And they learn that they can be a little bit more adventurous, right? I see this hyena person at first with this 9 of Swords energy right here. There's an element where they were very anxious, had a lot of anxiety. They were like waking up a lot from like nightmares and stuff. And if you're this hyena person, you will know this. But before you met this gazelle person, you were kind of like really stressed out, really tense. I definitely see this is a quarter moon, right? Definitely see this quarter moon is like very bothersome. And the fact that it's like half full, half dark, or half light, half dark, there's like a war between your nature. So with the gazelle, I see you made like, almost like you chose the path that wasn't the one that you felt was like the right one, or the one that was like destined to take you. You took a side route and you were like, you know what, I'm going to hang out with this hyena person. I'm going to get into this relationship, right? Once again, with those master numbers, we have 55 and 66. I was pointing that out in the last group that we have a lot of master numbers. So there's like a lot to learn here. A lot of powerful messages coming through. With the hyena card and this hyena person, I see that they kind of accepted your relationship. They kind of, in a way, with this anxiety right here, they were kind of looking for any way to get out of this anxiety. And so they kind of were like spinning the wheel. Like with the Wheel of Fortune, they were kind of saying like, you know, oh, if this person's coming my way, I'm just going to spin the wheel. I'm just going to get into this. So there's a sense of a gamble on both of these sides, you know, of gambling in this relationship. But it's interesting because both of you are in this risk-taking mode. Both of you are basically being very much risk takers in this situation. You get this kind of fire element correlation here with this. Both of you are like fire signs in this regard. And both of you, because you're gamblers by nature, you kind of, and not saying you actually are fire signs, but this is how you're being represented in this reading is through fire. Because you're both in this element of fire, it's almost like there's a sense of passion, chaos, combustion. So I definitely see that this relationship could have been romantic. If this was a friendship, there was a lot of passionate arguments and fights. And if it was a relationship, there may have still been fights, but there was definitely a lot of like lovey-dovey stuff. So, yeah, with the Knight of Swords energy and the Wheel of Fortune energy, the hyena person kind of gets into this Wheel of Fortune. This like sense of chaos, right? The sense of like chaotic, like I'm going to spin the wheel and do whatever, right? And the gazelle person is kind of like inspiring them to do this based on their choice. It's almost like this gazelle person is kind of making these wild choices. You know, with the Knight of Swords reversed, there is a tempering to this energy, but there is still this element where the hyena and the gazelle, because of the places they were both in when they got into this relationship, there is a sense of chaos, of like kind of like combustion. And so it's kind of like the hyena is learning to be more adventurous. You know, they're getting out of their shell with anxiety. They spun the wheel. They took a chance on this gazelle, and they're kind of deciding on their own, I'm going to be more adventurous. I'm going to kind of make my life an adventure, make my life exciting. And the gazelle person is kind of like indulging that, kind of like creating that with this hyena person. Now it's interesting because with the Knight of Swords in reverse here, I'm definitely seeing that this gazelle person is slightly less adventurous than the hyena person, and in a way is holding back a little bit in the connection. I feel like this gazelle person was always, through this connection, was holding a little bit back. And that's because there's an element of healing here too. Both of these are very intertwined. I'm seeing kind of a chaotic connection. So if you came to this reading, you're like, that sounds accurate. This was kind of a chaotic connection. There's a chaotic sense here, but there's definitely a symbiotic bond here. So you guys might not want to hear this if this was like very chaotic. You know, for some of you, it might not have been that chaotic, but for those of you that was very chaotic, there was a correlation. This person, I wouldn't call them necessarily a soulmate, but they are kind of like a soul that you keep encountering because you're meant to learn these kinds of lessons from them, right? And so with the gazelle person, this is kind of the person that is kind of meant to show you you're on the wrong path. Like they're kind of meant to reflect that you've made a wrong choice and to like push you back in the other direction, right? And for the gazelle person, for this hyena person, this is the person who's kind of come along to say, like, with these gazelle's prongs right here, I'm definitely seeing this gazelle like headbutting the hyena, kind of like, get moving, you know? And the hyena kind of like letting their more action-focused side out, you know? Definitely with this adventure, I'm definitely seeing with this Wheel of Fortune and adventure, this anxiety with the hyena fuels them to be more adventurous, more spontaneous, more outgoing. And definitely go on wild adventures, especially with the gazelle. You guys might have indulged in like special adventures together or going to different places. Now, the interesting thing too is you guys are from the same element, right? You're both fire signs and you're in a way kind of from the same environment. I mean, I can see hyenas like eating gazelles. So there is a sense of like not aggression, but like predator prey vibes here. So like the gazelle might be a little scared of the hyena, or there might be something going on like that. Also with this Two of Swords, the gazelle is learning that like, just like with getting into the situation with the hyena, they can also leave it. So if this connection was not that good for you guys, or was a little more dangerous than you anticipated, you can always leave. And the gazelle realizes that like, you know, this is kind of bringing up a lot of things for the gazelle. And it's interesting, the gazelle almost doesn't really have too much stuff to do with healing, but because the hyena's anxiety is almost reflected through their adventurousness. So like the hyena being more adventurous, being more outgoing, in some cases being more aggressive or assertive, they're transmitting their anxiety to this gazelle. And so this gazelle is realizing that they need to have a lot of healing done for them. You know, and with this Two of Swords, it's just putting them in another position, basically being like, you know, this is not what I bargained for. This doesn't feel right to me. So the lesson that's learned here for the gazelle, it's almost deeper. And that's the thing. It's like, it's not really just this connection. This is just kind of the marker point to redirect you on your path. with the gazelle, it's about choices. We have that again here with the star card in reverse and the two of swords here. The two of swords is about an impasse, a choice, following your heart, following your intuition, and kind of like you can't use logic to get out of these situations is kind of what the two of swords is pointing to, you know? And the good thing about this two of swords is there's a peace sign right above here indicating that the next choice you make is going to be a peaceful one. And that's kind of something the gazelle person kind of has to learn, that, you know, sometimes the road gets dark. And then sometimes the only way you can know to get back onto the light side of the road, or the road that's the healing road, is to get away from the dark road and move on to the light road, you know? Sometimes when you're on the light road too long, it's almost like very tempting to get off and make a wrong choice, you know? And then as like life goes on, as time goes on, the gazelle is going to slowly realize to more and more orient themselves to the kind of like the path, the path that like is meant for them, right? With the star card upright, it's like the next star on the line to create the constellation, you know, the next path forward, the next marker forward, following that North Star, right? So the gazelle is like learning how to follow their path in life. And that's kind of the lesson with this hyena person. So if you're looking for something that this person like specifically taught you, that's not kind of what this reading is going towards. This reading is pointing out though, that like whenever you get off path, whenever you get off kilter, whenever you feel that anxiety, and I'm definitely seeing that with this hyena card, it was kind of like a amplification of things, basically, with this hyena transmitting their anxiety onto the gazelle, right? There is this attitude with the gazelle person, kind of learning that like they pick up these things, they pick up this anxiety from their environment, you know? And so when they need to move on to a path of healing, they need to jump to that next path, you know? The star card and the way gazelles move in the wild, you know, they jump from point to point to point, you know, they're kind of to confuse their prey. So in order to get out of a situation with a predator animal, you know, they have to jump points. They have to kind of change their direction, change their path, you know, and they might freeze a little bit, but then as soon as they're booking and running, they're very intuitive, I guess is the best way to say, on how they choose their paths in life, I'm reading a lot for the gazelle. I'm going to get into the hyena side in a little bit, what the hyena learned from the gazelle. But the gazelles basically needs to kind of make those choices in their path. And that's kind of like, they're always supposed to choose the path of healing. That's kind of like their golden light in this situation, their sun that's behind them, you know? They have to kind of like choose the path of healing instead of the path of like destruction. And that's kind of their kind of lesson. With this hyena person, however, one of their lessons was to learn this sense of adventure. This gazelle person brought a lot of adventure into their life and got them to extrovert a lot of their energies. Even if those energies were chaotic, it got this hyena person into a state of being where they kind of were very like, I think carefree can be the right word, but also just unrestrained. They became unrestrained. They gave the wheel a spin. They took a chance, right? Now it's interesting because I'm definitely seeing that they get worn, as a hyena person, you might get worn down by this energy over time. So if you're kind of like in a position where I mentioned some aggressiveness on your part earlier, but if you're finding that like you're dealing with issues expressing your aggressiveness or your anger or something like that, sometimes it's a matter of balancing those inner and outer worlds. So with this Three of Cups, I definitely see, after so much time being very adventurous, going within, separating yourself from the group and getting in tune with what you believe in your heart and soul, and kind of getting in tune with how you think and vibe, away from the group and away from what people do and away from what people say and experience. And I definitely see, looking back, when you look back on this connection with the gazelle, they kind of showed you to kind of withdraw or like hold back. And I definitely see that they did that a lot with you, especially if you got a little too extra with them. There's a sense that like, because they held back, you kind of saw that as like weakness, but as you're learning now, as you kind of have left this connection, you're learning that is actually a strength. And something that you're learning is that in holding back and kind of like reflecting and stuff, there's an element of like strength, security, and also discovering like what your true needs are. You know, you're not just like wildly flailing about, but you're also not totally completely reserved, you know? I definitely feel like this hyena person, once they got out of this relationship with this gazelle, when they went back into their own world and kind of experienced their own inner self, they realized they didn't have these anxieties anymore. They didn't feel these anxieties because they expressed them. They got them off their chest. They expressed this attitude or this kind of like aggression or their wild, more adventurous side. They got to express it a little bit. So I'm definitely seeing for this hyena person, one of the lessons they learned from this connection, and probably if you're the hyena person, you're probably still learning this lesson. If you came to this reading and you're resonating with the hyena, you probably are realizing this through this reading, the fact that like, you know, being too much to yourself is kind of causes some anxiety, but then like you need to still express those aggressive impulses, you know, through sports or like, for example, like I personally just got a boxing bag at my house, and I kind of use the boxing bag out in my backyard to like express some of my aggression, especially if I'm feeling very low or having very low depressed energy. I like to box a little bit to get myself kind of up and elevated, you know. But at the same time, when you're up and elevated, you also have to know when to come back down, when to kind of relax. And there's that kind of balance, you know, with the Wheel of Fortune's always turning, you know, whether you're having good luck or bad luck, it's about riding the wheel on the correct waves, you know, riding those kind of those influences of your light and dark side and kind of learning how to work with them as time goes on. So yeah, so what a wonderful reading. I'm definitely seeing both of these people having a really strong connection in the beginning, really like resonating with each other and vibing with each other. You guys are like almost in the same habitat, I guess is the best way to put it. And in a weird way, one's kind of the sun, the forever light in the world, and the other one's the moon, kind of reflecting the sun and kind of having the darkness as well as the light. You know, so there's kind of like a definitely strong connection between both of you, almost a cosmic connection in a way. It's interesting. You guys meeting is kind of like an eclipse, I guess is the best way to put it. It's when the sun and the moon kind of collided and created this kind of eclipse, you know. I can never remember if it's a lunar or solar eclipse, whatever one where the sun gets in front of the moon gets in front of the sun and blocks the light to the earth. That's the one I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, I really enjoyed this reading. Let me see if I can see anything else, any final words for you guys. Yeah, the gazelle's lesson is all about choices. This is kind of the way the universe is pushing this on them. It's kind of their path is to like make these choices in the world and kind of realize that their life is built on these choices, and to kind of the guiding light is to kind of choose healing, you know. If you think of the sun providing energy to the plants, probably what the gazelle eats. The sun provides a lot of energy to these things, provides a lot of energy to plants to help them grow and be strong and kind of like vital and alive. And the hyena, on the other hand, with the moon, they're kind of learning how to control their crazy, you know, they're learning how to control when the moon's full and they're wild or they're having their wilder instincts, you know, maybe reserve themselves, go within and kind of process that, you know, but then when they're having their more, you know, reserve time, like letting a little bit of the wildness out, you know, riding the waves, kind of, especially if you're the hyena person and you're dealing with aspects of your aggression, getting in tune with the moon cycles and how the moon ebbs and flows from the new moon to the full moon, and getting in tune with that. You might feel as the hyena that on full moon nights, you're feeling extra feisty, or maybe you want to like get into fights with people, or you're just feeling extra aggressive. Be aware of that and maybe like reserve yourself away from some people, and then you don't have to worry about expressing those energies on people, you know, because you will have phases of ups and downs where you're feeling a certain way or not a certain way. Plan those activities accordingly, you know, whenever you're feeling wild or crazy, plan some like sports, or like plan kind of like, you know, with the punching bag thing that I do, you know, you could get one of those, or just go to the gym or something, or like really express those aggressions in a constructive way. And I think you'll be like full on good to go. I'm definitely saying you're at your balance point at these quarter moons. So when the moon is quarter, like half in and half light, you might feel fully yourself at these points, you know. That might be the time to go on adventures. You might experience a real total bliss experiencing adventures in those modes of like operation, basically. Yeah, so I think I covered everything for this last pile. I really enjoyed reading for you guys. What an interesting connection. It's interesting. You're not quite soulmates, but like you're definitely meant to meet up in like your lifetimes. I think you guys like orchestrate this to kind of meet up in this lifetime or these lifetimes to kind of like not just like meet up, but also to repel each other. You know, it's kind of interesting how that works. You know, you're both helping each other go on your separate ways. So you can think of this connection kind of like meeting up as frequently as like a lunar eclipse would happen, you know, or, you know, a solar eclipse would happen. So you can think about that. And yeah, as like a little metaphor for the connection. And with that said, that's the last reading for today. Anyway, if you like this reading, please like or comment below. If you really resonated with this reading, if you really vibe with my reading style and you like the channel, please subscribe to it. We're always welcoming new subscribers here at Cody Tarot. And with that said, we're gonna end the readings here. That was the last reading. So I bid you guys adieu. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next pick a card. Bye.